That's glass.
Oh, that is horrible.
This is diabolical.
I didn't realise how deep full of rubble it was.
You've got all of the water that we've been using recently is going straight into the ground, which means that wherever it's blocked, all of our toilet water is going to be stuck.
No. Six months ago, we packed up our lives in Tenerife, loaded up the pets and took the 37-hour ferry to mainland Spain, to one of the least populated regions, Extremadura. We came here for something slower, more land, space to grow our own food, real seasons, something we hadn't experienced for years, and most importantly, peace. This house hasn't been lived in for over 10 years. When we arrived, it was tired, overgrown, and very much forgotten, but we could see the potential. In this video, we're going to take you through the last 6 months, mostly in time-lapse, showing everything we've done to turn this place from abandoned into livable. We started by clearing out everything left behind by the previous owners. Unfortunately, none of the furniture could be saved. The house is riddled with woodworm.
That's glass.
If anything is in there, you just broke it.
Whoa, that's definitely got woodworm. Look at that.
That is crazy. Oh, they're falling everywhere. Oh, that is mental. Once the space was semi-empty, we moved on to installing temporary electrics throughout the house. So if you notice black tubing running everywhere, that's exactly where it is. A temporary setup to get us powered while the renovation begins. Our electricity is completely powered by solar. At this point we have 10 solar panels lying on the ground in the garden. So our next job was to build frames to get them off the ground. Once the frames were built, we turned our attention to the garden. Everything was completely overgrown, full of rubbish, the walls were falling down and the space just wasn't safe. The next job was building a temporary kitchen area. This was the kitchen left behind by the previous owners. We used it for a couple of weeks, but with this whole area coming down, it was clear we needed a different setup. So we built a temporary kitchen that would see us through the next few months. To make it fully functional, we had to raise the floor and connect to the old plumbing. We tiled the floor for a short amount of time. Once the plumbing was ready, we built our own sink, used by the old sink. Next up, we started working towards one of our bigger goals, living a more sustainable life by growing our own vegetables. We built raised beds, filled them with sticks, compost and soil, and planted our vegetables with absolutely no idea how or if any would actually grow. This was completely new to us, so we just hoped for the best. Using the materials we already had, we built shading and some very necessary cat protection. We spent a long time clearing everything back, opening the area up again. The plan is to turn this into a beautiful terrace space. The next job was tackling 95 years worth of rubbish. This part still gives us nightmares. I didn't realise how deep full of rubble it was.
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Well, I did say earlier,
goes
what
up
do you
to my
think, 2 skips or 3? And you were like, 1? No. We've done 2 with that pile there. There's at least 3 more
God.
skips, I reckon.
It doesn't look that deep from over there. Next job was to plumb in the boiler. Then the demolition began. This was when we called in reinforcements. Taking all this down completely opened up the terrace. Straight away we moved on to the neighbouring wall. It was unsafe, unstable, and it was starting to collapse. Next, we finally tackled the attic. For the first time in nearly 100 years, it now has electricity and a fully functional workspace for Jake. With the bed ready, we needed a water source, so we extended the plumbing to bring water directly to the raised beds.
Right, so that works.
As much as I loved our old termite-eaten windows, spoiler alert, Jake didn't. They were no longer fit for purpose. So Jake replaced them with triple glazed PVC windows that we ordered online. And finally, we salvaged the beautiful original doors that came with the house. They took a lot of hard work, but in the end, they were absolutely worth it. Next, we headed back to the garden. The goal was to separate the space, one part terrace, one part garden. We wanted to build a wall to keep these areas separate. Once we'd dug deep enough, we added our homemade rebar, and then we could finally get started on the concreting. Jake is a self-taught tiler with no formal training. While he's done labouring work in the past, much of this renovation has been learned through research and experience as we go. I'm just here trying my best. Next, we wanted to build a ramp that leads to the garden. To do this, we had to dig deep into the ground, which took quite a bit of time and hard work. The goal was to position a homemade structure to act as a stencil for us to pour the concrete into. Back to the raised beds. Our original protection system just didn't cut it, so we took the time to build something far more sturdy, using the materials that we already had. With winter on the way and the garden on a gradient, we also needed a better drainage. We installed our own version of a French drain behind the wall that we just built. Then it was back to the terrace, and this was a lot of work. We dug up the entire terrace, adding a much better drainage system and starting the processing of reconcreting the floor. Next up, Jake got to work on the garden pipe work. The plan was to run water to an outdoor shower on the left and water to the garage. While he was at it, he also added a conduit so we can bring electricity to the garage in the future. With all that in place, we could get started preparing the ground for concreting, adding hardcore and steel reinforcement.
Are you looking forward to scooping the water out?
They are all literally going to be full. If it rains as much as it says it's going to, it's going to take ages for that to dry.
Next up, it was time to take down a wall. We're building an entrance here and you'll see shortly why. First, we removed this old bidet and carefully took off the tiles. We're planning on saving them and reusing them somewhere else.
All of the water that we've been using recently is going straight into the ground, which means that wherever it's blocked, all of our toilet water is going to be stuck. I know.
No.
So next we need to remove the old waste pipes, which was as horrendous as it sounds, and replace them with brand new ones. Afterwards we reconcrete the floor. Now that the waste pipes were replaced, we could move on to our next major job. At this point we have 4 usable rooms, and the plan was to turn this old space into a bathroom. That meant ripping up the floor, installing new waste pipes for the shower, bath, toilet and sink, adding hardcore and carefully levelling everything. Once that was done, we added the vapour barrier before reconcreting the floor and the shower area. We then installed all the plumbing to bring hot and cold water into the bathroom, along with the electrics and cabling, not just for this room but also for a future extension, which we're currently waiting on planning for. Next, it was time for a new ceiling. We started by building the framework, adding insulation, and finally fitting the plasterboard. We highly recommend this lift thingy. Once you get past the instructions, it was a great help. We also done the same for all of the walls. Jake built a wall to block off the old bathroom. We utilised this space by turning it into a built-in cupboard. As you'll see, everything from here is pretty self-explanatory. We go into a lot more detail in our weekly videos, so if you'd like to see more, definitely check those out. And for now, we'll let you watch.
You wanna do? Give me everything you got. I just wanna try to get you in the mood. I just wanna hit your spot. I wanna get low. Wanna get low. I wanna go down, stay, kissing your feet tonight. You're gonna give it to me right. Give me everything that you got to give. Baby, show me the light. Wanna go downstairs, kissing your feet, and you make me crazy. Now I wanna go downstairs, kissing your feet, and you make me crazy. Wanna get low, wanna get low.
So this is where we're at now. After 6 months of hard work, we've got a finished bathroom, proper drainage in place, and the groundwork done for the garden and future extension. We're still waiting on the paperwork for that extension, but we're well on our way. Learning new things every day. We've had our first harvest, experienced some pretty wild weather.
That is looking so bad. This is not meant to
Storm.
be. This is not meant to be full.
If you've been here from the beginning, thank you so much for being here. And if you're new to the channel, this has been our life for the last 6 months. We've still got a whole house to renovate, an extension to build, and a garden to sort out. So if you like projects like this, you're welcome to stick around.